Have you ever wondered who the most powerful beings in Tolkien's lore are? While many people take a look at individual characters like Gandalf, Aragorn, or Galadriel, today we're going to go through each order of creation in The Lord of the Rings, and not only fill you in on their secrets, but also rank them by how powerful they are. My name is Gibby, and welcome to Factor Fantasy, a channel where we discuss Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, analyzing characters, lore, and more each and every week. Shout out to this commenter from my last video, and if you're wanting to be featured next, be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Jason, Cody, Joshua, and the rest of my incredible Patreon supporters who help make these videos possible each month. Before we dive into our list of most powerful beings in Tolkien's lore, I just want to clarify there's a huge caveat on this list. Just because an order of being is ranked in a specific position does not mean that individuals from that order cannot move around the list more freely. While I'll still bring up certain people as examples throughout the video, there are always outliers who are more powerful than their peers. For example, Aragorn is technically a man, but we can't really count him on the same level as someone like Éomer. Anyway, with that being said, let's get started with the first of 12 different levels that we're covering today. Ranked at number 12, we of course have the non-sentient creatures of Middle-earth. These are the animals we see in the books who are not as independent as the children of Ilúvatar and others like them. Now, to be clear, in Tolkien's lore, everything seems to have a voice. I mean, the elves spoke to trees and they eventually started talking back. So I don't think we can claim that anything in Middle-earth is technically completely void of consciousness. But I do think that there's a hierarchy to it. So in this category, I would place creatures like wargs, horses, and Mumakil. While the Mumakil are extremely powerful, their lack of sentience is what places them at number 12. And honestly, I might get a lot of heat for this right at the beginning of the video, but I just couldn't bring myself to place hobbits in dead last. Because power is defined in multiple ways in Tolkien's lore. It's not always as straightforward as can I stomp you into the ground, which is why hobbits rank at number 11 on this list. While a warg or a Mumakil could easily take out any hobbit, except Bilbo in the movies I guess, I think it would be a disgrace to say that hobbits are less powerful than the natural creatures in Middle-earth. There are exceptions like Lotho, but for the most part, hobbits are extremely resilient to evil, and mentally are stronger than the beasts that we just discussed. They are small and unassuming, but at the center of some of the greatest tales in their world. But for those of you who think that maybe hobbits should be higher than 11th, we still need the reality check that they were watched and guarded by the Rangers of the North for a very long time. Aragorn even mentions in the Council of Elrond that he and his men have protected the quiet lands of the North without any thanks or praise, staying hidden from all as they have kept out evil creatures and dark beings. Without the Rangers, the Shire would have been overtaken long ago, and we even see that being done after the Grey Company assists Aragorn in the War of the Ring. Without the protection, Saruman and his evil men take over the Shire, and the only thing that breaks the hobbits free is the bravery of our four main hobbits who have gone on a life-altering adventure. So while the hobbits easily rank higher than the natural creatures of Middle-earth, the reality is that they're still weaker than pretty much all other creation. And that's kind of Tolkien's entire point of the Lord of the Rings story. Even those perceived as the weakest can have the largest effect on the world. But this video is not about who's more impactful, it's about who's more powerful. So with the hobbits ranking at number 11, who takes the 10th spot? Of course, that would be orcs, trolls, and other corrupted low-level minions like that. We'll cover some more powerful corrupted creatures later on, but the orcs and trolls fall under this category. Keep in mind, goblins, orcs, and Uruk-hai all fall under the orc umbrella. They're obviously stronger physically than hobbits, and they are sentient beings, despite being manipulated and controlled. We learn from Treebeard in the books that trolls were made as an imitation of Ents, because Melkor had nothing similar to rival the Ents. As for orcs, the origin is up for debate, because Tolkien had multiple drafts of their original story. The most accepted idea is that the orcs were elves who were tortured and corrupted by Morgoth, then bred with each other to create more orcs. Despite some of them having significantly more physical strength than the average man, I still have to rank them below dwarves, men, and elves because of their corrupted nature. The physical benefits of some of them just don't outweigh the mental weakness, as they are manipulated and controlled by every Dark Lord who comes along. On the flip side, let's talk about a race that was specifically given some bonus points in resisting manipulation and corruption. The dwarves come in our rankings at number 9, which seems low, but once you hear about our remaining 9 orders of being, you'll understand. I think the most difficult comparison is with men, because it could be argued that the weakest man is less powerful than the weakest dwarf. But in general, I rank the dwarves lower than men simply because they are not children of Iluvatar. They were crafted by Aule in secret and later adopted, kind of, by Iluvatar, but they were not Eru's creation in the way that men and elves were. However, because their father is Aule, we know that they are hardy, resilient, strong, and skilled in craftsmanship. They also live longer than men. So what is the secret sauce that makes men more powerful than dwarves in my opinion? Well, in order to explain that, we first need to reveal that men are indeed next on the list, coming in at number 8 in our rankings. The thing that makes me place men here ahead of the dwarves is their ambition, and ambition might not even be the best word for it, but I really don't know any other way to explain it. So here's the exact quote from the Silmarillion about the creation of men and their quote-unquote secret sauce. "Therefore he willed that the hearts of men should seek beyond the world and should find no rest therein. But they should have a virtue to shape their life, amid the powers and chances of the world, beyond the music of the Ainur, which is as fate to all things else. And of their operation everything should be, in form and deed, completed, and the world fulfilled unto the last and smallest." This might not seem like a lot, but in the same chapter we learn that the elves and the dwarves were not given this same gift of freedom. And this gift of freedom is the sole reason why they were given mortality. For Eru knew that if they lived forever, their ambition would not be able to be tamed. Obviously, there's a lot more nuance to it than what I'm getting into today, and that's okay. If someone wants to explain this more clearly in the comments, please do. But ultimately, the fact that men are equipped with this gift from Eru himself, and the fact that they are the children of Iluvatar, whereas dwarves are not, is what places them one spot above Aule's creation. Next up in our power rankings, we need to address the Ents and the Eagles. I know this seems odd to pair them together, but I think they're on similar levels. I couldn't lump them in with our animals and natural creatures because obviously these beings are just on a whole other level. And yes, I know they aren't the children of Iluvatar, but they get placed higher than men simply because of their inherent physical and mental strength. Ents, of course, have the power to command entire forests as well as live for thousands of years. And they're the inspiration for trolls, which goes to show how large and strong they are. Eagles, on the other hand, can fly, are extremely smart and wise, and have physical strength just in a much different way than Ents because obviously they're birds. But I bet those talents hurt. Obviously though, we can look at the text for the main reason why these beings are placed above men and dwarves. Anytime there's a battle or some fighting needing done, things tend to end pretty quickly once the eagles show up or the Ents decide to participate. It's also one of the reasons why Tolkien doesn't involve them too much, because they're a little too overpowered when in battle against regular people and orcs. Therefore, they get placed at 7th in our Tolkien power rankings. But now we need to address the other half of the children of Iluvatar, and finally rank the elves, who come in at 6th on our list. Things are a little complicated here because not all elves are treated equally. You've got some elves who have seen the light of the two trees, and you've got other groups like the Avari who refuse the call to go to Valinor. But when you consider people like Feanor, Fingolfin, and Galadriel, you can't deny that the elves are some of the most powerful beings in Tolkien's lore. Some of them are even considered as powerful as Maiar. Time and time again, they are involved in the most important plots of Arda, and they are noted as the greatest among the children of Iluvatar. And in some cases, an elf would even battle a Maiar, who in the general rankings would be way more powerful. But between their wisdom, immortality, and skill in crafting, they're easily at 6th in terms of power. Now this might be controversial, but at 5th, I'm putting dragons. Yes, we like elves more, but this is a power ranking and the dragons are hard to beat. Besides in The Hobbit, Tolkien doesn't talk much about dragons, but they did exist and were extremely powerful, especially Glaurung, who was the first dragon. Bred by Morgoth in the depths of Angband, Glaurung was one of the enemy's greatest weapons. Of course, the power rankings get a little upset when you consider who killed this dragon, but that's a whole story in itself that we won't get into today. Hello, this is Gibby from the future here, just recording to say that I did forget, ignorantly, to add Encalagon the Black to the dragon list here. Now that I'm looking at it though and thinking about it, it's probably for the best that I didn't include him because he might just top the power rankings in general all by himself. If you know who he is, then you get what I'm saying. You can just look up, I'm looking at a picture on Reddit here of the size comparison of Encalagon the Black compared to Glaurung and Smaug and the other dragons. And it just really, isn't fair when you look at how he can fit the Misty Mountains in his paw, essentially. So we're just going to ignore Encalagon for the dragon section and just talk about the other dragons in general. But yeah, anyway, back to the video. If you disagree with me putting dragons at number 5, drop a comment below and let me know why. Moving on to number 4 in our rankings, we've got an interesting one. I know this might seem weird, but I'm gonna put the Istari as their own category here and rank them 4th. The Istari, if you didn't know, are the wizards of Middle-earth. This includes Saruman, Radagast, the 2 blue wizards, and of course, Gandalf. The Istari were Maiar who were sent by the Valar to assist the free peoples of Middle-earth in their war against Sauron. But the reason I'm marking the Istari as a separate order of being is because they play by a completely separate set of rules. Unlike their Maiar forms, the Istari were incarnate, given human bodies with all the downsides that come with it, and they were limited in power, being specifically instructed to never use force, but to only persuade and guide the free peoples. Taking separate names from their Maiar forms, limiting their power, and taking incarnate bodies essentially turn them into a completely new being, which is why they're titled the Istari. But speaking of Maiar, that brings us to our 3rd most powerful being on the list. These beings were extremely powerful demigods or angels of sorts. Essentially, they were assistants to the Valar who ruled above them. The Maiar would often choose 1 or 2 of the Valar to study under and follow. The most famous of the Maiar were of course Olorin, Curanir, and Myron, who we would know more commonly as Gandalf, Saruman, and Sauron. Also, fun fact, Balrogs were Maiar, who were corrupted by Morgoth. So, unlike the dragons, Balrogs don't get their own category here, as technically they fall under the Maiar category. But now let's jump into some fun honorable mentions who I don't directly want to rank here because they're more so individuals than an order of beings. First, there's the Watcher in the Water, who never really gets any lore to itself. If any of you have the inside scoop on how the Watcher came into being, drop a comment below. Second, we have Shelob. We'll count the regular spiders of Mirkwood in the same category as the orcs and trolls, but Shelob is in a league of her own here. Even Sauron didn't dare to mess with her and rather preferred to leave her alone in the pass of Cirith Ungol. Which brings us to our 3rd honorable mention, Ungoliant. Perhaps one of the most powerful beings in all of Tolkien's lore, Ungoliant is a unique case as she really has no origin. Some say she simply came from the void, while others say that she was made when Melkor messed up the great music of the Ainur. Regardless, Ungoliant was a dark evil being who was feared by Morgoth himself, aka Melkor. So when you're feared by your maker, you know you're powerful. But she doesn't get ranked here because there are no others like Ungoliant in Tolkien's lore. But now let's finish up our power rankings with the final 2 orders of beings in Tolkien's Legendarium. Ranked at number 2, we have the Valar, who are the most powerful of the Ainur. The Valar are the ones who made the great music that formed the world and then chose to dwell in Ea and continue their creation. They were named Manwë, Ulmo, Aule, Orome, Mandos, Lorien, Tulkas, Varda, Yavanna, Nienna, Esta, Vere, Vana, and Nessa. 7 lords and 7 queens, making 14 total Valar. Melkor was technically the greatest of these, but he is not a part of the 14 anymore as he became evil and the elves no longer counted him as a Valar. Now I know some of you Tolkien lovers would have preferred that I refer to the Maiar and Valar as the Ainur, but for this video we're separating them because, let's be honest, they're on totally different levels of power. But you know who is on his own level of power all by himself? Eru Ilúvatar, the creator of all things and the one god in Tolkien's universe. While the Valar and Maiar are like gods and demigods to the elves, Eru is the creator of everything, and therefore he must be placed at number 1 in our rankings. Shocker, right? If you're familiar with Tolkien's lore, then you knew how this would end. But if you're a movie-only viewer, or even someone who has just read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings books, then you might not have known that there was in fact a defined creator in Tolkien's Legendarium. And if that's the case, I highly encourage you check out the Silmarillion to learn the creation story of Middle-earth itself. But with that, we're all wrapped up here with our Tolkien power rankings. If you disagree with any of my placements, feel free to leave a comment below with your own list. I'd love to see how all of you rank these beans. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned each week for more Lord of the Rings content. Thanks again to my patrons, have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.